You've been asking the universe for money all wrong. I need to tell you something that might upset everything you thought you knew about manifesting wealth. For years, you've been trained to beg, to plead, to ask politely, and wait with your hands folded, hoping the universe might notice you among millions of other voices. But here's what nobody tells you. The universe doesn't respond to begging. It responds to command. I learned this truth not in a moment of enlightenment, but in a moment of absolute desperation. I had been studying metaphysics, teaching these principles, believing I understood the spiritual laws, when suddenly I found myself utterly broke, not just financially stretched, but genuinely without means. And in that moment, everything I thought I knew shattered. Because if I truly understood these laws, why was I struggling? Why wasn't my polite asking working? Then something shifted. I stopped asking. I stopped begging. I stopped waiting for permission from an external force to give me what I needed. Instead, I spoke with the authority that was always mine. I commanded. And let me be very clear about what I mean by command, because this isn't about arrogance or forcing anything. This is about recognizing who you truly are in relation to the universe. You are not a servant begging at the feet of a master. You are a divine being, speaking the creative word that moves energy itself. The difference between asking and commanding changed everything for me. Within days, money appeared from sources I couldn't have imagined. Old debts were suddenly repaid. Unexpected opportunities opened. But more importantly, I understood something profound about how this universe actually works. It doesn't reward the meek who whisper their desires, hoping not to disturb anyone. It responds to those who speak with the conviction of someone who knows, without doubt, that what they declare must manifest. Right now, you're going to learn the exact words I use, the precise, spiritual technology that commands $100,000 into your experience. Not requests it, not hopes for it, commands it. And before you think this sounds too bold or too impossible, let me remind you of something. Every single dollar that exists, every resource, every abundance in this world came from the same invisible substance. The only difference between those who have and those who lack is knowing how to speak the word that crystallizes that substance into form. You see, wealth is not something you chase, it's something you claim. There's a vast difference between pursuing and possessing in consciousness. When you pursue, you're always behind, always reaching, always in the energy of lack. But when you claim, you stand as the owner even before the physical evidence appears. I once knew a woman who had been struggling financially for years. She'd tried everything, working longer hours, cutting expenses, affirming prosperity in a half-hearted way. Nothing changed. Then one day, something shifted in her understanding. She stopped asking for money and started commanding it. She would stand before her mirror each morning and say with absolute conviction, "Infinite substance, I command you to manifest as immediate and abundant supply." She didn't beg. She didn't plead. She commanded as one who knows her divine authority. Within 3 weeks, money began flowing to her from sources she'd never imagined. An old debt someone owed her was suddenly repaid. An opportunity for work appeared that paid triple her previous rate. A relative she barely knew left her an inheritance. The universe rearranged itself to match her command. This is how spiritual law works. It doesn't respond to your desperation. It responds to your conviction. Now, here's what most people get wrong about commanding prosperity. They think it means shouting louder or forcing their will onto the universe. That's not command, that's desperation wearing a mask. True command is quiet. It's calm. It's the immovable knowing that what you speak must come to pass because you're speaking from your divine identity, not your human panic. When you say, "Infinite substance manifest now," you're not trying to convince the universe. You're simply stating what is already true in the invisible realm. You're calling it forth into visibility. Think of it like this. The electricity is already in the walls of your home. You don't beg the electricity to work. You simply flip the switch with the absolute expectation that the light will turn on. That's command. That's faith in action. And when you live from this place of command, something shifts in the fabric of reality around you. Doors that were bolted shut suddenly swing open. People who never noticed you before start offering help. Money flows from unexpected sources. It's not magic, it's law. I remember a woman who came to me absolutely desperate. Her husband had left her with 3 children and no income. She was consumed with fear, rehearsing disaster scenarios every waking moment. I looked at her and said, "Stop declaring your poverty. Stop speaking your lack. You are making it permanent with your words." She protested. "But it's true, I have nothing." "Then, change what's true," I told her. "Command your good to come forth." She started speaking differently. Every morning, before her feet hit the floor, she would declare, "Infinite Spirit, open the way for my immediate supply. Let all that is mine by divine right now reach me in great avalanches of abundance." She didn't beg. She didn't plead. She commanded with the authority of one who knows she is a daughter of the Most High. Within 2 weeks, a letter arrived. A distant relative she barely remembered had passed away and left her a substantial inheritance. But here's what's crucial. The relative had died 6 months earlier. The inheritance had always been hers. Her command didn't create it. Her command cleared the channel so it could reach her. This is how most of your good works. It's already en route to you, but your fear, your doubt, your contradictory statements are creating blockages in the channel. You're damming up your own river with debris of negative words. Think about how you speak about your body. "I always get sick in winter. I have a bad back. I'm getting old." Every single one of those statements is a command to your subconscious mind, which serves you faithfully by manifesting exactly what you've decreed. Now imagine speaking this way instead. "My body is a temple of the living God, renewed and restored daily. Divine life flows through every cell of my being." Can you feel the difference? One set of words tears down, the other builds up. This isn't just positive thinking, my friends. This is spiritual law. You are literally commanding the substance of your body with every word you speak. Your cells are listening, your organs are responding, your entire physical system reorganizes itself, according to the blueprint you provide through your words. I once knew a woman who was told she would never walk again. The doctors had given their verdict. Her family had accepted it. Everyone spoke of her condition as permanent, as fixed, as unchangeable. But this woman understood something they did not. She began to speak differently, not to convince others, but to instruct her own body. Every morning she would say, "My legs are strong and perfect. I walk in divine order. Every nerve responds to God's perfect plan." Her family thought she had lost her mind. The nurses smiled politely, but sadly. Yet within 6 months, she was taking her first steps. Within a year, she walked without assistance. The same doctors who pronounced her condition permanent now called it a miracle. But it wasn't a miracle in the sense they meant. It was law. Spiritual law operating through the power of the word. She stopped agreeing with limitation and began decreeing perfection. Her body had no choice but to respond. You see, your subconscious mind cannot argue. It cannot debate. It simply accepts what you repeatedly tell it and sets about making it true. When you say, "I'm so sick," your subconscious says, "Yes, Master. We shall create more sickness." When you say, "Divine health is my birthright," your subconscious says, "Yes, Master. We shall manifest health." This is why people remain stuck in the same patterns year after year. They are hypnotizing themselves daily with their own negative declarations. They rehearse their problems. They describe their limitations. They prophesy their failures. And then they wonder why nothing changes. Your word is the most powerful force in your life, and you're wielding it unconsciously every single day. I once knew a woman who would say, every morning without fail, "I just know something bad is going to happen today." And wouldn't you know it, her day would unravel in the most predictable ways. A missed train, a rude encounter, a lost opportunity. She'd come to me each week and say, "See, I was right, I'm just unlucky." But she wasn't unlucky. She was obedient to her own word. The universe doesn't judge your words as positive or negative. It simply says, "Your wish is my command." When you declare, "I can't afford that," the universe arranges circumstances to prove you right. When you say, "Nobody respects me," you magnetize experiences that confirm that belief. You are legislating your reality with every syllable. This is why I tell my students, you must become vigilant about what comes out of your mouth. Not paranoid, vigilant. There's a difference. Paranoia is fear-based. Vigilance is power-based. It's the recognition that you are speaking things into existence, whether you realize it or not. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Most people think they can offset negative speech with positive thinking. They'll say something destructive, then quickly think, but I don't really mean that, let me tell you, it doesn't work that way. The spoken word carries a vibrational frequency that thought alone cannot match. Speaking engages your entire being, your breath, your body, your energy field. It's a commitment. It's a decree. This is why affirmations, when done correctly, are so transformative. You're not just thinking differently, you're vibrating differently. You're instructing every cell in your body, every particle of your energy, to align with a new truth. But here's the trap most people fall into. They treat affirmations like magic spells they can recite without belief. They stand in front of the mirror and say, I am abundant, while their inner voice screams, yeah, right. That's not affirmation, that's lying to yourself. And the universe knows the difference. True affirmation requires a shift in identification. You must speak from the reality you wish to inhabit, not from the reality you're trying to escape. When you say, I am prosperous, you're not pretending, you're not lying to yourself. You're recognizing a spiritual truth that exists beyond your current circumstances. Prosperity is your divine inheritance. The affirmation isn't creating it, it's aligning you with what already is. I once worked with a woman who came to me in absolute desperation. Her business had failed, her savings were gone. She was facing eviction, and yet I asked her to do something that seemed impossible, to affirm abundance while staring at complete lack. But Florence, she said, isn't that denial? Isn't that just burying my head in the sand? No, denial is refusing to acknowledge your circumstances. Affirmation is refusing to be defined by them. She began to practice. Every morning, before the fear could grip her throat, she would stand before her mirror and declare, Infinite Spirit, open the way for my immediate supply. Let all that is mine by divine right now reach me in great avalanches of abundance. The first few days, nothing happened. The eviction notice, T, still sat on her table. The creditors still called, but something subtle was shifting inside her. The panic was loosening its hold. A strange certainty was taking root. Within 2 weeks, an old colleague reached out with a freelance opportunity. Within a month, that opportunity had doubled. Within 3 months, she had not only paid her rent, but had rebuilt her business on an entirely new foundation. Was it magic? No, it was alignment. You see, when you're vibrating at the frequency of desperation, you cannot perceive opportunities that exist at the frequency of abundance. Your consciousness is literally blind to them. The affirmations didn't create new opportunities. They opened her eyes to see what was already there. This is why I say, change your words, change your world. But here's where most people stumble. They treat affirmations like a part-time hobby. They say them once in the morning, and then spend the rest of the day contradicting them with worry, doubt, and negative expectation. You cannot affirm abundance at 9 in the morning, and then spend 9 hours speaking poverty. Your subconscious mind is listening to everything. It's recording every word, every thought, every emotional tone. I learned this lesson the hard way many years ago when I was first beginning to understand these principles. I would do my affirmations faithfully every morning. I would declare my prosperity, affirm my abundance, speak my good into existence. And then I would spend the entire day contradicting everything I had just declared. Someone would ask me how I was doing, and I'd say, oh, getting by. You know how tough things are right now. I'd look at my bank account and say, I never have enough. I'd see a beautiful dress in a shop window and think, I could never afford that. And then I wondered why my affirmations weren't working. The truth hit me like lightning one afternoon. I was doing affirmations for abundance while living in a constant state of lack, consciousness. I was trying to build a house of prosperity on a foundation of poverty thinking. It doesn't work. It cannot work. Your subconscious mind doesn't differentiate between your morning affirmations and your afternoon complaints. It simply records everything and creates accordingly. If you spend 5 minutes affirming abundance and 10 hours speaking lack, guess which message is going to dominate? The one you repeat most frequently, the one you feel most deeply. This is why guarding your words throughout the entire day is not optional. It's essential. It's the very foundation of demonstration. Now, I want you to become fiercely aware of your habitual speech patterns. Most people have no idea how negatively they speak all day long. They're on automatic pilot, repeating the same limiting phrases they've said for years. I can't afford it. That's just my luck. Nothing ever works out for me. I always struggle with money. I never get what I want. These are not harmless statements. These are commands to your subconscious mind. These are declarations of what you expect to experience. And your subconscious mind is faithful. It will move heaven and earth to prove you right. I challenge you today to catch yourself every single time you're about to speak a word of limitation. Before you say, "I can't afford it," stop yourself. Rephrase it. Say instead, "That's not a priority for me right now," or "I'm choosing to invest my resources elsewhere." Do you see the difference? The energy is completely different. One statement declares permanent lack. The other declares choice and power. When you understand this distinction, you stop arguing with what is and start creating what will be. I had a client who would constantly say, "I can't afford healthy food." She said it automatically, defensively, as if I'd accused her of something. One day, I asked her a simple question. If someone gave you $50 right now and told you it could only be spent on groceries, what would you buy? Her face lit up immediately. She rattled off a list. Fresh vegetables, good quality protein, organic eggs, berries. She knew exactly what she wanted. The knowledge was already there. The desire was already there. So you do know how to afford healthy food, I said gently. You're simply choosing not to prioritize it with your current resources. I watched the shift happen in real time. Her shoulders dropped. Her expression changed from defensive to contemplative. She wasn't being attacked. She was being invited to see her power. Within 2 weeks, she'd rearranged her budget. She cut her streaming subscriptions. She started meal planning. She discovered a farmer's market with incredible prices. Nothing about her income had changed, but everything about her relationship with money had transformed. Because she stopped declaring permanent inability and started recognizing temporary choice. This principle applies to everything in your life that feels stuck. I'm not a morning person becomes. I haven't yet built a morning routine that works for me. I'm bad with technology becomes. I haven't invested time in learning these tools. Yet, I can't lose weight becomes. I haven't found the approach that fits my body and lifestyle. Do you feel the difference? One version is a prison sentence. The other is simply a status update that can change tomorrow. Your words are not just describing your reality, they are prescribing your reality. They're writing the script that your subconscious mind follows with absolute obedience. When you declare, "I can't," your subconscious hears, "I must not." It immediately begins organizing all your behaviors, thoughts, and circumstances to prove that statement true. It will filter out opportunities. It will amplify obstacles. It will make you blind to solutions that are standing right in front of you. And here's the part that most people don't understand. Your subconscious doesn't. It distinguishes between what you're affirming and what you're denying. When you say, "I am not afraid of failure," your subconscious hears afraid and failure. It takes those words and runs with them. This is why I teach you to speak in the affirmative. Not what you don't want, but what you do want. Not, "I will not be poor," but "I am prosperous." Not, "I hope I don't mess this up," but "I am divinely guided in this endeavor." Your words are setting the trajectory of your life every single day. Every conversation you have with yourself is either building your palace or digging your grave. Now, let me share something that will revolutionize the way you approach challenges. When an obstacle appears in your life, and they will appear, your immediate response reveals everything about your inner state. Most people see an obstacle and immediately begin to complain. They call their friends to rehearse the problem. They post about it. They think about it constantly. And what are they doing? They're watering that obstacle. They're feeding it. They're giving it power and permanence in their experience. But someone who understands spiritual law does something entirely different. They see the obstacle and they say, "This is temporary. This is an illusion. The truth is that my good cannot be withheld from me." They speak to that mountain. They command it to move. Not with force, not with anxiety, but with calm certainty. Jesus said you could speak to a mountain and tell it to cast itself into the sea. He wasn't being poetic. He was teaching you a practical principle. That mountain, that obstacle, has no power except what you give it through your recognition of it. I've watched people dissolve seemingly impossible situations simply by withdrawing their fear and speaking words of faith. The situation didn't change because they forced it to change. It changed because they changed their relationship to it. One woman came to me absolutely distraught. Her husband he left her. Her finances were in ruins. She was on the verge of losing her home. And she kept saying, "I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do." I stopped her right there. "That's the problem," I said. "You keep affirming that you don't know. Instead, affirm that infinite intelligence within you knows exactly what to do, and the way is being revealed to you now." She looked at me like I was asking her to lie. "But I really don't know," she protested. "Then stop saying it," I told her. "Every time you say 'I don't know,' you're closing the door to the answer. Say instead, 'I am divinely guided. The perfect solution is revealing itself to me now.'" She began to practice this. Within 2 weeks, an unexpected opportunity appeared. Within a month, her entire situation had transformed. Not through struggle, but through alignment. The spiritual law operates with mathematical precision, but it requires one thing most people refuse to give: complete surrender of the struggle. See, we've been taught that surrender means defeat, that letting go means giving up, but this is the great misunderstanding that keeps abundance at arm's length. True surrender is not passive. It's the most powerful action you can take. When you surrender your anxiety about money, you're not abandoning your desires. You're removing the energetic blocks that prevent their manifestation. You're saying to the universe, "I trust your timing more than I trust my panic." I've watched people transform their financial situations overnight simply by releasing their death grip on outcomes. A man once told me he'd been desperately seeking employment for 8 months. Every day was consumed with anxiety, checking job boards, sending desperate applications. The energy of lack permeated everything he did. I asked him to stop, completely. For 3 days, I told him to do something that terrified him, act as if the perfect position was already secured. He walked differently. He spoke differently. He stopped checking job listings 20 times a day. He focused instead on preparation, updating his skills, organizing his workspace, even buying new professional attire as an act of faith. Within those 3 days, a former colleague reached out completely unprompted. A position had opened that hadn't even been advertised yet. The salary exceeded what he'd been desperately applying for. This wasn't coincidence. This was law. The moment he released the stranglehold of desperation, he became magnetic to opportunity. His energy shifted from "I need" to "I'm ready." And the universe responds to readiness with remarkable speed. Your predominant vibration is always creating your experience. When you're vibrating lack, you magnetize more lack. When you're vibrating abundance, even before physical evidence appears, you magnetize abundance. This is why affirmations fail for most people. They speak words of prosperity while feeling the terror of poverty. The feeling always wins. The universe responds to your energetic signature, not your words. If you want to change your financial reality, you must first change your internal state. You must cultivate the feeling of already having what you seek. You must practice the vibration of abundance until it becomes your natural frequency. This isn't pretending. It's not toxic positivity. It's aligning your inner world with the reality you wish to experience in your outer world. The bridge between where you are and where you want to be is built with the energy you emit right now, in this very moment. Let me tell you what most people get wrong about this work. They think that because they've said an affirmation once, or twice, or even 100 times, the universe should now deliver, but that's not how this works. This isn't a vending machine where you insert coins of positive thinking and out pops your dream life. The real transformation happens when you stop performing positivity and start embodying the Kuerti Gao frequency of your desire. There's a difference between saying, "I am abundant," while your body is tense with anxiety about bills, and saying, "I am abundant," while your nervous system relaxes into the truth of infinite supply. Your subconscious mind doesn't respond to the words you speak. It responds to the feeling state beneath those words. It responds to what you genuinely believe when no one is watching, when you're alone with your thoughts at 3 in the morning. I've watched people speak affirmations with clenched fists and wondered why nothing changes. The words are right, but the energy is all wrong. It's like trying to attract butterflies while emanating the frequency of a thunderstorm. The mismatch is the problem. This is where true spiritual work begins, not in the speaking, but in the becoming. Not in the declaration, but in the dissolution of everything inside you that contradicts what you're declaring. When I say I am divinely protected, I don't just mouth the words. I feel into the spaciousness of that protection. I allow my shoulders to drop. I let my breath deepen. I notice how my body wants to respond to that truth, and I give it permission to relax into safety. This is active faith. This is conscious creation. This is how you actually impress your subconscious mind with new patterns. And here's what happens when you do this consistently. Your external world begins to shift, not because you forced it to, but because you've stopped radiating the frequency that was holding the old reality in place. You become magnetic to circumstances, people, and opportunities that match your new inner state. Let me tell you about a woman I knew who came to me absolutely convinced she would never be financially secure. She had all the evidence to prove it: debt, no savings, a job that barely paid enough. But something shifted in her after one of our sessions. She began to practice what I call living from the wish fulfilled. Every morning, instead of checking her bank account with dread, she would sit quietly and truly feel what it would be like to have more than enough, not in some distant future, but right now. She imagined opening her mail without fear, paying her bills with ease, even treating herself to small luxuries without guilt. She didn't deny her current reality, but she stopped giving it all her emotional energy. Within 3 months, something remarkable happened. She received an unexpected promotion. A relative paid off one of her debts as a gift. She found money-saving opportunities she'd never noticed before. But here's what she told me that I'll never forget. The money changed, yes, but I changed first. I stopped feeling poor before anything in my outer world shifted. This is the missing piece most people overlook. They want the evidence before they change the feeling. But the universe doesn't work that way. The feeling must come first. You must become it before you see it. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but Florence, isn't this just pretending? Isn't this denial of reality? No, my dear, this is not denial, this is selection. You're not pretending your current circumstances don't exist. You're simply choosing to stop feeding them with your attention and emotional power. You're withdrawing your investment in lack and placing it in abundance instead. Think of it this way. A gardener doesn't stare at weeds all day, worrying about them, giving them attention. The gardener focuses on what they want to grow, waters those seeds, and trusts the process. The weeds naturally fade when they're no longer fed. Your circumstances are the same. What you stop feeding must eventually starve. What you consistently nourish must grow. This is why those who transform their lives always speak of a turning point, a moment when they stopped arguing for their limitations and started claiming their good. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They didn't wait until they felt ready. They made a decision, and they held to it with the tenacity of someone who knows their very life depends on it. Because it does. You see, the universe doesn't respond to your desperation. It responds to your conviction. It doesn't answer your begging. It answers your assumption. When you beg, you're affirming lack. When you assume, you're affirming fulfillment. The vibrational difference between these two states is the difference between repelling your good and magnetizing it. I've watched people pray for years without result, then shift their prayer from "please give me" to "thank you for," and see manifestation within weeks. The external request was the same. The internal position was completely different. One came from poverty consciousness, the other came from abundance consciousness. And the universe, being a perfect mirror, reflected back exactly what was being transmitted. This is not theory. This is law. As impersonal and reliable as gravity, you don't get what you want. You get what you are. And what you are is determined not by your circumstances, but by your habitual mental state, your dominant frequency, the story you've agreed to live inside. So the question is never, what do I want? The question is, who must I become to already have it? And then, more importantly, am I willing to become that person before I see the evidence? Most people are not. They want the evidence first. They want the money in the bank before they feel abundant. They want the relationship before they feel loved. They want the success before they feel worthy. And so they wait and wait and wait. And the waiting itself becomes the affirmation that keeps their good at bay. But you, if you're still with me, if these words are resonating in that deep place where truth lives, you are not most people. You've been chosen by your own readiness to hear this message. And now you must choose whether you will apply it. Will you dare to praise before you see the victory? Will. If you speak thanks before the gift arrives, will you walk in the assumption of fulfillment while the old forms are still crumbling around you? This is the narrow gate. This is the eye of the needle. This is where faith becomes the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. You see, the world will tell you to hedge your bets, to have a backup plan, to keep one foot in the old story while you cautiously test the new one. But that is not faith. That is fear dressed up in wisdom's clothing. Real faith is exclusive. It refuses to entertain alternatives. It closes the door on Plan B because it knows that the moment you create an escape route, you've already decided that Plan A might fail. I knew a woman who declared prosperity but kept a secret savings account just in case. She called it being responsible. But what she was really saying was, God, I don't trust you. And the universe, which mirrors our true beliefs, gave her exactly what she was preparing for more. Reasons to worry, more situations that required that emergency fund. The money came and went, like waves that never lifted her boat, because she was anchored in doubt. Then one day, exhausted by her own contradiction, she made a radical decision. She tithed from that secret account. Not 10%, everything. She gave it all to the vision she claimed she believed in. Do you know what happened? Within a week, 3 opportunities appeared. Opportunities that had existed all along, but that she couldn't see because she was looking backward, protecting her retreat. This is the law. What you fear, you create. What you protect against, you attract. What you prepare for, you experience. So I ask you now, what are you still hedging? Where are you keeping your backup plan? The kingdom requires your whole heart, not your leftovers after fear has taken its share. Stop negotiating with doubt. Stop explaining to people why you need to be realistic. Realism is just a grace. Socially acceptable word for limited thinking. You were not born to be realistic. You were born to be magnificent. And magnificence doesn't happen in the safety zone. It happens at the edge, where faith meets the invisible and declares, even though I cannot see it, I know it is done. This is your moment. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, not when circumstances improve. Now.